Acoustic electric guitar has always been the worst of both worlds. There's no perfect solution. It's a journey that is full of struggle and compromises. And today I want to share my rig with you and talk about the journey that I've taken to get there and hopefully to help you refine your sound on stage. Hi, my name is Jonathan Byrd, usually here to give the information, the inspiration, and the motivation to write your own songs. But today I want to talk about the struggle of playing acoustic guitar live. It's worth saying there are two different approaches to this. And early on in the plugging in of acoustic guitars, there wasn't really the technology to get a good acoustic guitar sound. So people like Joni Mitchell, Michael Hedges, they came up with a whole different way, an electric acoustic sound. It wasn't an electric guitar, it was an acoustic instrument that they plugged in and then modified in various ways and used various electronics to produce a really interesting electrical tone. For me, I want my acoustic guitar to sound like an acoustic guitar. The way that I play, the deep thump of an acoustic guitar, if that gets turned into a whack, I just can't stand it. I can't play a single song that way. So for many years, I used a microphone. That was the only way to get the sound I was looking for. Now there are a lot more options, and I'm going to show you what I do so that on the other end of this electric chain of events, my acoustic guitar again sounds like an acoustic guitar. Now this is what you need when you're on a stage and you're loading in and out. This is a pedal train board, by the way. Pedal train is a very popular brand, and you can screw your power supply right into the bottom. There's so many advantages to this. By the way, I should say I'm not being sponsored or paid by any of these brands that I'm going to tell you about today. I just love their stuff. I found that it works for me. I used a lot of Velcro over the years. It tends to be messy. It gets gunked up with dirt. You can't clean it. It's impossible. Pedals get harder and harder to move, or they get harder and harder to make them stick. So one of the things that I found works best, and this comes recommended from many pedal board builders, is this is called 3M Dual Lock. And it doesn't have sides like a fuzzy side and hook side. They're both kind of hook sides, and they stick together. Very strong. As you see, I just turned my pedal board upside down. Nothing moves. I find that it's cleaner and that you can actually just blow it out with compressed air, or like a nice strong vacuum cleaner. You can vacuum dirt out of it, and that's very handy and very different from Velcro. For years, I did different kinds of stuff. I had this little piece of plywood board. I think Johnny Waken made this one for me, actually. It had some feet on it. It had Velcro. And then I moved up to this terrible, cheap road case that I had to duct tape or gaff tape the handles closed because they stopped staying closed after like 3 gigs. You can DIY this just as well. I would just recommend not doing Velcro and instead getting 3M Dual Lock. I don't think it's any more expensive. If it is, it's not that much more expensive, and you're not going to end up buying more like you would with Velcro. So it's probably going to save you some money, and it's certainly going to save you some headaches. Now, on to what is actually on my board right now. So the first piece of kit doesn't have anything to do with my tone, but it has more to do with the way that I like to perform. I like to move around. If I'm going to play a guitar solo, I'm going to come out from behind my mic stand and walk out to the edge of the stage and engage the audience. I love to do things like that, and I'm a little bit of a klutz. So having a wire attached to my guitar, I've unplugged myself so many times until I got this, which is a wireless unit. This is the Shure PG-XD1, and this is not the 2.45 gigahertz, the Wi-Fi frequency stuff that most wireless units now use. And I had a good unit that used that technology, but I found that at festivals and conferences where there were lots of wireless mics, lots of other wireless units, a dozen different Wi-Fi signals in the room, I had problems that sometimes just disabled the entire unit. I just had to cut it off. It didn't matter which channel I chose. There was too much interference for me to use any of that frequency band. So I found a UHF unit, and UHF means it uses radio frequencies instead of microwave frequencies, which Wi-Fi uses. And I have taken this outside and walked around the building and played and never lost a signal. Now, I'm not going to go through all the technical details of how this works, how to reset the channel, whatever. I actually, once I set it, I've hardly touched it. It just works every time. But I will show you how I put it on my body. So I hook it on my belt right here. If you wear a dress, I don't know how that works. But hopefully somebody in the comments will. And then I take this and I pass it through a belt loop. And I loop it through one time to reduce the length of the wire and also to keep it from, if it has enough length, it'll get looped around this sometimes and like yank down on the side of the acoustic guitar. So that always helps me to keep it in place. Then I just plug it in to my guitar right there. And I can move around quite a bit without the cable being able to go too far back here and getting wrapped around in some weird way around the unit itself. Some people will actually tape a thing to their strap to keep it from moving. That's smart. I find that's not necessary for me. So the first thing in my rig, besides my wireless unit, is my tuner. And there are several different reasons why that is the case and why I use this particular tuner. This particular tuner is a TC Electronics Polytune 2. It has a very bright LED display that I can see. Even if I'm on a festival stage in the middle of a sunny day, I can see what the tuner says. That's really important because if I can't see it and I'm not hearing very well on stage, I have to be able to tune my instrument. This is one of the brightest and easiest to read tuners I've ever used. Another reason that I like it is that it's like a micro pedal size, almost a mini pedal size. So it's maybe about half the width of a normal size, like a Boss pedal, Ibanez tube screamer, like those classic pedal profiles. It's smaller than that, so it doesn't take up a lot of room on my pedal board. One of the best reasons to have a tuner on your pedal board or as a pedal is that you can use it as a mute. So you can save everybody from the dreaded pop, ooh, when you unplug, and oh, when you plug it, oh, I forgot to mute myself. Oh my God, the audience hates me. Everybody on stage hates me because I made the big pop sound. It happens every now and then, but if you have a pedal, a tuner, or some kind of way to mute yourself, you can save everybody that agony and you get used to doing it. Another thing that this tuner does, which is crazy, I don't know how they do this, is that you can play all the strings open. And it gives you a pretty good idea that my A string is maybe a little flat or my E string is maybe a little flat, but it looks okay. All 6 of those green lights right there are showing you all 6 of your strings. And I'm pretty good. If I was really out of whack on something, I see that very consistently on the G string, it's showing that I'm flat. And so if I was on stage and I couldn't hear very well and I just wanted to check really quick, that would show me that I had a problem. Now, as I unmute myself and begin to play, what I'm going to share with you is the sound I'm recording straight into Pro Tools out of my final DI. I have 2 DIs. I'll get into that in a moment. So out of my final DI, I'm going straight into my Pro Tools rig. No low pass filter, no EQ, no compression, no nothing. I'm going to share with you the sound so that you can hear the things that I'm talking about, the tone quality, the dynamic quality of these things. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to put a little bit of room ambience on this because it's so dry. It's not how you would ever really hear it. You would hear the sound of the room that this is being played in. So the second thing that I'm going into is called a Fishman Aura Acoustic Imaging DI. So this is something that converts your electrical signal from your acoustic guitar into a signal that is right for going to the board. You have a DI box that you normally plug into. If you play acoustic guitar live at all, you're familiar with this. So this is basically an advanced DI box. This is the first thing that made me feel like I was playing acoustic guitar when I heard it back through my monitors, when I heard my plugged in sound. So Fishman spent a lot of time with different guitars, modeling them, recording them, figuring out their acoustic properties so that you could add it back in to your DI signal. So all I have in this guitar is a piezo pickup. It's the worst, quackiest kind of pickup you can use in an acoustic guitar. And I can show you here, they have different selections. You have dreadnought, orchestra, concert, jumbo, nylon, 12-string, bluegrass, whatever that means. And then there are user images, which means you could record and use your own images. If you were like a real tweaker, you could do that. The gist of it is to find a model that makes your guitar sound like your guitar again. And for me, the Dreadnought on selection number 12 sounded the most like my D18 Golden Era that I use as a touring guitar. So I always leave it on that setting. I never change that setting. I just found the one that sounds good. That's where I leave it. So I'm going to turn the blend mode completely down, and now you should just be hearing the sound of my pickup. Now I'm going to turn the blend mode about halfway, which is where I normally use it during a gig. More responsive, more dynamic, more harmonically interesting. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying the same thing that I said when I first checked this pedal out. Why wouldn't you just crank that blend mode all the way up and just make it sound like an acoustic guitar? Well, the thing is, you really start running into the same problems that you run in with microphones and other kinds of microphonic pickups. You start running into feedback and weird frequency resonances that guitars really do have. So I'm just going to turn the blend all the way up and let you hear what it sounds like. So you can really hear what the blend mode is doing, and it's really not even a pleasant sound when it's 100% to the blend. But usually right in the middle at 50%, I can deal with feedback, I can get a good tone. It's a nice compromise that still makes me feel like I'm playing an acoustic guitar. I haven't found the EQ on this pedal to be particularly colorful or interesting or even useful. It also has a compressor on it, which I never use. I'm a very dynamic performer. I love having very quiet times, very loud times. I think that is the key to the energy in any sonic performance. It has a tuner on it, which is really not very good. I never use it. But the one thing on this pedal that will save your life. This is Jonathan Byrd here in my editing shirt, and I just wanted to say I realize that all of these pickup sounds you're hearing in this video are a bit woolly. They're kind of big in the low end. And if you don't have that low end present in your pickup sound, it's very difficult to just artificially create it, to just crank up the low EQ. So I like sending a lot of low end to the sound tech. They can roll off as much as they need to. Sometimes, like on a festival stage, it's great. All that low end is handled so well by the subwoofers. It's very clean and clear, and it makes it sound huge on a big stage like that. Sometimes in a smaller room, you roll off a lot of it. It makes the acoustic guitar sound natural. But giving a lot of it to the sound tech to work with is important to me in getting that thump and the dynamic range and the drum-like quality of a real acoustic guitar. And enjoy the rest of the video. Thanks for watching. But the one thing on this pedal that will save your life is this thing called AF, anti-feedback. It detects and notches out feedback frequencies. So if I turn this off, you can hear that my guitar naturally has sort of a low-mid resonance that's a little bit much. But what it does is when I'm sound checking, I just give myself a lot of gain and I make my guitar feedback, and it automatically catches that feedback and notches it out. And I'm going to show you how that works. Okay, so I press and I hold that button until it starts flashing in number 1. And then turn my gain up, and I go across a couple different frets so it has a chance to ring in different frequencies, like right there. Let's see. Don't have a third frequency, so I'm just going to hit it, and it's on. I've cleaned up the frequencies and I'm not going to get feedback. I cranked it way up louder than it's ever going to be in the system so that I know I'm not going to hit that feedback threshold. All right, so the fourth thing in my chain of events is something that I learned from Luke Jackson, my friend in the UK. I was on tour, played a show with him, and he had this beautiful low end in his guitar. I was like, what is that? And what it was the Boss OC3 super octave pedal. And what's so cool about this pedal is that you can dial in the range so that it doesn't produce a lower octave for every string, every note you play on the guitar. So I can set it so that really only the notes on the bottom two strings will have the octave beneath them, and the rest of them sound kind of normal. And that gives this impression that there's a bass player or that there's just some kind of really rich bottom end going on. So let me show you what I mean. Right, you can hear that lower octave beneath what I'm playing, and it changes the way that I play, because you can hear when I go to that F chord, it gets kind of muddled. There's too many low strings going on, but when I'm playing the C chord, which is actually a D, whatever, I alternate so that I don't have more than one low end sound going on and getting all wobbly in the low end like that. So it changes the way that you play. So most sound techs will just go ahead and high pass the guitar. That means they cut off some of the lower frequencies that can be problematic. And I have to ask them not to do that if I'm playing solo, because otherwise you won't hear those low notes. They'll be actually turning them off with an equalizer. Whereas if I'm playing with a band, I'm happy for them to high pass the guitar up to like 100 hertz or something. And if I use that pedal, then it still gives me some kind of thickness for, let's say, a chorus or something where I want the song to just feel a little bit bigger, and the bass player comes in, and it almost feels like there's another guitar down there if I use it that way. So I'll just go ahead and low pass myself right here. You can hear that something is there, even though you can't hear the actual notes of it. So the third way that I use this pedal is sometimes if I'm playing, especially in a band setting, and I want to play a lead on the acoustic guitar, and I really want something that will distinguish it in the mix, something that will make it really easy to hear. I will turn the range knob all the way up, meaning that it covers an octave. No matter what note that I play, it will have an octave below it, every note. Maybe turn the level of the octave up a little bit. And now if I'm playing a lead, and everything has this thickness to it. It's almost like the old George Benson style of running octaves, and it makes the acoustic guitar stand out in that busy mix. And that brings me to the very last aspect of my pedal board. So I was looking for some way to give myself a boost, speaking of doing leads and wanting to stand out. So I tried out different volume pedals, and everything seemed to kind of change my tone. So I went to South Austin Music in Austin, Texas, a place where I was able to line up just a dozen different volume pedals. And they also handed me this thing called a Red Eye, made by a company called Fire Eye, and it's an Austin company. It was the only thing that didn't change the tone of the guitar. It seemed just as harmonically rich coming out as it was going into it. And unlike a volume pedal with this sort of infinite variability, where I had to kind of guess where my boost was and where my rhythm volume was, you just set the boost and you click a button and you go up to that volume, and then you click the button and you go back down to that volume. It also has a little bit of treble knob, so you can add a little bit of treble to it. I find that I don't use that. It makes the guitar sound kind of like it's a DI again, that quacky kind of sound. I don't use the treble function, but I do use the boost to varying degrees, and it lifts the volume of my lead playing, or sometimes just fingerstyle. So let me show you how that works. And you don't really hear a pop or a click when it switches over. And if I hit it just right, it sounds very natural. Another way that I might use it is to boost my fingerstyle. So when I'm playing chords, I've got one volume, whereas if I play fingerstyle, it's a lot quieter. So I can just click that in a little bit. And then my fingerstyle really comes across in the mix. So that's it. I have my wireless system, which goes into my tuner, which goes into my Fishman Aura acoustic imaging DI, which I don't actually use as a DI. I just send that signal on to my octave pedal. And then from there, I send that on to my Red Eye Boost. FireEye is such a great company. So before I had to run this with a battery and there was no other way to do it. And then I saw that they came out with another unit that had AC power in it. So I emailed the company and said, wow, if you ever make just the original boost pedal with an AC plug, I'd really love to get that so I can stop using batteries and just plug it in like I do everything else on my pedal board. And they said, just send it to us in the mail. We'll drill a hole, we'll put an AC adapter in there, and then you can plug it in. And it took like a week to turn around, and they did that for me. They didn't charge me anything to do it. Really appreciate the folks at FireEye. And again, no one is sponsoring any of this content. I'm just telling you what I use because I love all this stuff. I use it, and this is where I have landed after 20 years of playing the acoustic guitar and struggling and trying to get my acoustic sound across. And to hear something back that I can really play into, that reacts like an acoustic guitar, does the things that I want it to do, has the dynamic range. If you have something you found that works for you, please leave it in the comments and I will check that out as well. And I'd love to know if you get any of these things and use them and if they work out for you too. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. It would really help me if you would like, subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. And also, maybe even more than that, just share it with other people that you think would be interested. If you'd like to support my mission to educate people online, you can go to patreon.com/Jonathan Byrd Music. You get discounts on my workshops, on merchandise. You get early access to stuff like I was just making a record with Tim O'Brien, Sam Bush, and Missy Raines. We got video in the studio. I can share that with my patrons where I can't share that publicly because the songs aren't registered, the mixes aren't done, all that stuff. But I share my journey with my patrons, and I appreciate my patrons for really making my career possible right now. All right, love y'all so much, and don't forget to write.